Thank you for everybody for coming. I want to welcome everybody here today. First, I'd like to welcome the Legion Riders groups present from Hay Springs and Gordon. The Western Sandhills Legion Riders and from Hemingford and Alliance of Post 33 Panhandle Legion Riders. We're gathered here today to honor Specialist fourth Class Douglas Irvin Walton. Doug joined the United States Army on the 14th of May, 1968 in Woodland, California. He done his basic training in Seattle, Washington at Fort Lewis. He then did his AIT at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and then his jump school training at Fort Benning, Georgia. Then after a 30-day leave, he was deployed to Vietnam. He was a member of the 101st Airborne and would later join the 3rd Battalion, 187th Airborne Rakazans, the most highly decorated unit in the history of the United States Army. Under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Walton F. Honeycutt, Doug and his unit fought in the battle Operation Apache Snow. The objective to find, engage, and kill the 29th North Vietnamese Army Regiment, also known as the Pride of Ho Chi Minh. In the A Shaw Valley on hills 937, 900, 916, and 800, in 11 sustained days of repeated brutal combat assaults up to 40-degree vertical bamboo-infested mountains, 101st Bravo Company, 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry Rakazans, and the 2nd Battalion, 501st Infantry, and the 1st Battalion, 506th Infantry, together with other Screaming Eagle troopers, lost 113 men and had close to 500 wounded. Hill 937 was worst to take. It was named Dong Abia Mountain. The local Vietnamese people refer to the mountain as the Mountain of the Crouching Beast. And because of the fierceness of the battle, it was later named Hamburger Hill. Doug would later join the elite chopper group Casper Platoon. Casper Aviation Platoon was the only unattached aviation platoon in the United States Army during the Vietnam War and flew covert missions under no leadership. The reason there was no commanding officer, no permission was needed to complete their missions. Their mission was to search and rescue and find and destroy, and the missions were always completed. Doug was honorably discharged in October of 1971. His awards for his military service include National Defense Medal, Vietnam Service Ribbon with the Bronze Star and the Silver Star, the Vietnam Campaign Ribbon with Device 60, 2 Army Commendations medals, 1 with Valor, the Air Medal with the number 19. For every 25 hours of combat flight hours, you receive 1 number. So he had 19 times 25, over 500 hours of combat flight time. 3 Bronze Stars, 1 with Valor, 2 for meritorious service in combat, 2 Purple Hearts, 3 Presidential Unit Citations, 1 for the 101st Airborne, 2nd for the 187th Airborne, and the 3rd for the Casper Platoon. The paratroopers' wings and an air crewman's wings sharpshooter badge for an M16 and the expert badge for the machine gun and the CIB or combat infantry badge. Now will everyone please stand if you're able? Will all of the veterans in the crowd please come to the center aisle, including Legion Riders. Specialist 4th Class Douglas Walton, the Post 34 Fred F. Sturdivant Gordon American Legion, and the Post 43 Panhandle American Legion Riders, and the Western Sandhills American Legion Riders would like to thank you for your service in the United States Army. Veterans, hand salute. 2. As you were, please be seated. Now I would like to introduce Kathy Dye with the Panhandle Blocks Quilts of Valor Foundation for the presentation of the quilt, and also have her introduce people that are also here to help her.
We're going to gonna be good friends here just real quick, okay? But first thing I'm gonna let you do is sit down. How's that?
Doug, that's quite a list that you read about you. That was a privilege to hear that, and thank you. So like Casey said, I'm Kathy Dye with the Panhandle Blocks Quilts of Valor Group. Actually, several of our quilters are here today. I don't have to find them in the flags. We've got Lenny over here, so a little lady, and Jacqueline is over there, and Carol's over there, and Alyssa is over here taking pictures. So we've got you surrounded by quilters and flags. And I can tell you this is probably the most flags I've ever seen at a Quilt of Valor presentation. So very exciting. So just a couple things I want to tell you about first before we move into the presentation is that our group is called Panhandle Blocks. And we have members from not just Alliance and Bixby County, though most of us live there. We also have members from Bay Springs, Mirage Flats, Crawford, and some down in the southern panhandle as well, some eastern Nebraska, and even a few in Wyoming. We've been officially a group for about 2.5 years. We've presented quilts in the last 10 days, I think, well, the last month for sure. We've been to Sydney, Fort Robb, Crawford, Rushville. Our second trip to Gordon, we've done some in Hemingford, Berea, and Alliance. And so in the last 2.5 years, we've done, I believe, year number 245. So very exciting. Yep, it's been keeping us all very busy, but it's very humbling to get to celebrate so many of the veterans that are so deserving, one of which is you. Nebraska has about 20 groups, and we're the only one west of North Platte. And you know, when you look at any map of Nebraska, there's always a bunch of dots on one side, and then there's usually 1 or 2 dots on the other. Even works that way with quilts, but that's okay. We're just glad to be able to do this. I'm going to tell you something I've never told anybody in a presentation before. But when I look at these flags, and it is just an honor that all of these folks help celebrate so many of our veterans with us. Take time to do that. That is just very humbling. A lot of times we have legions or we have a VSO, which actually we even have a VSO here today from Bixby County. Family members, the quilters. When I look at all that, it just kind of takes my breath away. But I think it is so important that we continue to celebrate and honor what's been those who've gone before and preserved and protected our freedoms. I think in keeping that in mind, it'll give us hope for today and hope for tomorrow. Absolutely. So that just makes it an extra honor today to be able to do this with so many of us together. It's why we do what we do, whether it's stitching or pressing or collecting donations or riding the bikes or hauling the flags or cooking the burgers or whatever it is. It's why all of us do what we do, because we want to. Making quilts, we can teach you. We surely can. A quilt of valor says thank you in a way that mere words can't. So in 2003, a lady by the name of Catherine Roberts had a son deployed in Iraq. And she came up with an idea of something that she could do. She was a mom, she was a nurse, but she was a quilter. And so she thought that was something that she could do to say thank you, to maybe give honor and comfort to young soldiers, to veterans, to service members. And so the first quilt was made and presented to a young soldier at Walton Reed Hospital. He was a young man from Minnesota who had lost his leg. And since then, we have presented and recorded, because we record all of them with the foundation, 252,370 quilts of valor. And we're going to add to that number today with yours. From the beginning, Catherine knew that it needed to be a quilt that was quilted and not tied. She envisioned that it would be something that would often be a team project, though certainly some are made entirely by one individual. She wanted it to be a top-notch quilt to celebrate service. The mentor that I worked with when I got started with Quilt of Valor said that We need to remember that they gave us their best, so we need to give them our best. And that's what we have to keep in mind as we're getting these, not only the quilts made, but as we prepare presentations. So with all that said, Doug, we thank you. We thank you for leaving your home and your family and all the things that you hold dear to stand in harm's way to protect our country. We know that freedom isn't free, and because of you and men and women like you, we have the freedoms that we enjoy today because you were willing to step up and sacrifice, that you were willing to step up and serve. And so this quilt is a thank you from your friends and your family and a grateful nation. So are you ready to see this quilt? All right. Well, they're getting folded. It's a nomination process, so I'm sure you figured out by now that you were nominated by Casey. So, Quilt of Valor is a quilt and not a blanket. So I always make sure our veterans hear that because it's important to us quilters that you know that. And it's 3 layers that are sewn together. So we think of it this way. I'm gonna have these girls do one slow pivot because these folks over there are trying to get a picture. So we think of it this way, that top with its different colors and shapes and all the pieces of it, just remind us of all the individuals and communities that are grateful for your service. And the center of the quilt is the part that you can't see. That's the batting. That's what gives the quilt its warm, comfortable feeling. That's the part that we hope that you feel when you're wrapped in this quilt, that you will feel the comfort and maybe even some healing with that when you're using it. Then the back of the quilt is what gives the quilt its strength and support. So that reminds us, first of all, of the strength of you as our veteran. And it also reminds us of the strength and the support of our country. And then it's held together by a whole bunch of stitches. We've got the stitches that hold all those pieces together you saw on the front. And we have the stitches that hold the layers together. And then we have the stitches that hold the binding together all the way around the outside. So a little bit about that is it's about 300 inches to go around the outside. The first time we sew it on by machine, and then we go one more lap around there by hand. Tiny little stitches that are less than 1/4 inch apart, so you can do some math there. While we're doing that, okay, we might be watching TV a little bit too, but we're also thinking about the veterans who have stood for our country and who have fought for our freedoms. So the thing that makes a quilt of valor unique and different from other military quilts is that it has a label that clearly states that it is a quilt of valor. And so the ladies are gonna walk up here. Yep, you'll need your glasses because we put a whole lot of information on here and I think I'm gonna have to add a little bit more. So we've got your name and today's date and location. And this quilt was pieced and bound by Carol Bauer. Have you ever met Carol Bauer? Oh, she's right here. And this one was quilted by Suzanne Walker. It also has U.S. Army 187th Airborne. Oh, I'm not going to say that right. From here, I can't read it. Kazaran? Rakistan. Whoa, that was really bad. And your service dates are on there as well, which is way too far for me to read from over here. And then in the bottom corner, it also says that it's presented today with American Legion Post 34 and the ALR Western Sandhills Riders Chapter 34 and the Panhandle Riders Chapter 43. That's the story of the quilt up until today. From today on out, the story of the quilt becomes part of your story. So just as the Army has its traditions, We also have a tradition as Quilts of Valor, and that is that we wrap our veteran. So we'll get it all set up. I'm gonna have you stand.
You have a break to start. Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of people here that want to take your picture. We'll get them up in a minute for some family pictures. There's a few more things I want to tell you about. We want you to use this quilt. Don't think it's too good to use. We definitely want you to use it. Maybe not when it's 101, but on days when it's not, okay? And when you do, we want you to feel the love and the appreciation that is sown into every scene. So in closing, on behalf of the Quilts of Valor Foundation and the Grateful Nation, on behalf of Gordon Legion Post 34, the American Legion Riders Western Sandhills Chapter 34, the American Legion Riders Panhandle Chapter 43, we thank you so much for your service. But Doug, most importantly, something we want you to hear is welcome home.
I want to thank Holly, and I want you to know that it was, not only was it my obligation, my duty, but it was truly my honor to serve my country. And I also know that every one of you feels exactly the same way. And it wasn't just something that we did because we had to. Sorry, I turned into a real crybaby lately.
Judgment-free zone.
But every one of us served because we wanted to. Not necessarily because we volunteered, like dummies like me. But when our country called, we went anyway. We went, we served, and we served with honor. And the only other thing that I want you to know is, there's a lot of talk about the medals of valor on my rack. And I want you to know that I am no hero, but I did walk among heroes. And it wasn't me who earned those medals, it was all of us. We earned them together. We fought for mom and pop and the red, white, and blue, but we fought for each other. And that's the main crux of the war. You're not, once you're in war and you make the decision to go fight, then once you get there and begin to fight, you're no longer fighting for a cause, you're fighting for each other. And you continue that, and it works out that the cause was just or whatever, then that's good. But I'm no hero. I'm just another guy, just like every person standing here today.
You're our hero.
You're a hero.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, everyone.
It was my pleasure.
And I salute you.